Sen patladı. Good afternoon to members of the media and all of you who've joined us here on this Sunday afternoon, and to those who are joined in either streaming or watching live on television. This is an update from the government of the Bahamas on that tragic occurrence early this morning in Bahamian waters just off of New Providence, which claimed the lives of several suspected illegal migrants, irregular migrants, that is. And we want to give you an update. We've brought together all the relevant agencies so that you can get all the updates as they've happened from the relevant persons working regarding this tragedy. However, we will begin from Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Davis, who will make a statement. And once he is done, we will follow by hearing various agencies give you their updates. And then at the end, we'll take any questions that you may have for either of the speakers this afternoon. So without further ado, Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Davis will come and address you.
Thank you very much. And welcome to the Office of the Prime Minister in its media room. There was a tragedy at sea involving suspected irregular Haitian migrants. As a result, a multi-agency investigation is underway to determine the full circumstances surrounding a suspected human smuggling operation which has resulted in the deaths of these irregular Haitian migrants. The Royal Bahamas Police Force, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, they responded to reports of a boating incident 7 miles off New Providence just after 1 a.m. on Sunday, July 24, 2022. A rescue operation ensued immediately. Rescue teams recovered 17 bodies from the water. 15 males, 1 male, and an infant. 25 persons were rescued and were turned over to health officials for monitoring. Based on information received to date, it is presumed that additional persons are missing. Search and recovery continue as we speak. Preliminary investigations suggest that a twin-engine speedboat left a docking facility off West Bay Street around 1 a.m. with approximately 60 persons on board. It is believed that their final destination was Miami, Florida. It is believed that the vessel capsized in rough seas. Law enforcement officials will update you on the criminal matter as well as other rescue and recovery efforts. However, I would like to convey the condolences of my government and the people of the Bahamas to the families of those who lost their lives in this tragedy. My government, from the time it came into office, has continually warned against these treacherous voyages. We have increased surveillance on land and sea and intensified patrols. We take this opportunity to strongly condemn the organization of smuggling operations which risk human life and compromise our national security. Those found to be involved will face prosecution. I understand that the situation that many of these migrants face that will encourage them to take such great risks. We, however, appeal to those considering making such a voyage not to do so. And I thank you. You'll call that.
Yeah. Thank you, Prime Minister. He will be remaining during the press conference should there be a question for him at this time. We're going to invite the Commissioner of Police, Clayton Fernando, to come and give us an update on their part of the operations. He'll be followed by Deputy Commander of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, Captain Shondell Pinder, who will give an update. And then we'll hear from the Minister of Labor and Immigration, Keith Bell, followed by the Acting Minister of Health, Ryan Pinder, followed by the Managing Director of the Public Hospitals Authority, Albannette Roll, who will give us an update on PMH and the role that was played there. In that order, they'll come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all. The Prime Minister has already laid out pretty much the brief facts, but the call that came into Police Control Room shortly after 1 a.m. This morning. After our Marine section got the information, it was channeled to the Defense Force, who responded. They met the boat capsized. It's a 30-foot speedboat. It was capsized. There's a hood, what you call a cabin hood, to the front of this vessel. On arrival, they had rescued the 25 individuals who was thrown from the boat and was some which latched onto the boat, and they were able to rescue 25, which include 2 Bahamian males who we have in police custody at this time that we suspect, and we need to speak to them further. We have them in custody at this present time. The search continued at daylight. We were able to recover the boat. It was capsized. The hull of this boat is the same color blue of the sea. So it was difficult during the nighttime to really identify the vessel in the water. It was emerged in the water. The officers heard a knocking to the hull of the boat. Divers eventually went down, and that's where they recovered the bodies, the 17 bodies. There was 1 female who was still alive, was up in the air pocket of that, the hull of that boat. So I believe that that's what kept her alive. They were eventually brought to shore, and the female and others were taken to hospital for medical attention at this time. Our medical crew at PMH, we have collected some identification that was found on the deceased persons. Investigators are in possession. They are going to meet with the medical team so that those items can be handed over to generate a line of inquiry with a view of trying to identify those victims at this time. We are working closely with our law enforcement partners, immigration, and the Defense Force. We also have our U.S. Coast Guard rescue team who is still out there in that recovery mode, a vast area, just to ensure that if we are able to recover anybody else alive or any bodies that is there at this time. Based on our intel, we believe that it was between 50 to 60 persons who may have been on that vessel. We are still interviewing the ones that were found alive, and we will get further information from them to assist with the investigation. But it's live, the scene is still live as we speak, and that in a short order we will be able to bring you additional information. We will update you as we move with our investigation.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
A very pleasant good afternoon. It's always regrettable when you have to advise and give updates on matters as tragic as this. Suffice it to say, the Most Honorable Prime Minister, indeed the Commissioner of Police, have spoken as it relates to the aspects of our operation which was initiated. And what I'd like to also point to is the fact that when the information was received, there were no specifics. And so we had a vast area to search to begin with. And once the vessels actually identified the vessel, the capsized vessel, efforts began in earnest to rescue as many persons as possible. There were some formidable weather conditions out there. And they continue to face that challenge as operations continue. What I would like to also stress is that it is, in fact, a combined effort. multi-agency, and we will continue to provide our assistance in collaboration with our local as well as our international partners in the U.S. Coast Guard, who has offered and continued to provide flight support as it relates to assistance in this regard. And more importantly, the use of our drone technology to assist us in ongoing efforts. I would like to just thank all the persons who are involved in this. There's a lot of persons who make this entire operation, despite its tragedy, somewhat hopeful, and that we were able to recover a number of persons and indeed continue to search. And so it speaks to our collaboration, and it speaks to the professionalism of all the men and women involved in the process. And as we receive updates, as our efforts continue, we will certainly make sure that you are informed. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, media. Good afternoon, Bahamians. Let me say, first of all, that I'm joined this afternoon with the Director of Immigration, Ms. Katura Ferguson. I want to, first of all, convey my deepest sympathy to the family of those that were lost at sea. And secondly, I want to commend all of the agencies and law enforcement for their swift response, which resulted in the saving of a number of lives. 20 persons so far has been turned over to immigration. They are at the detention center. As the commission indicated, interviews have commenced, and as I'm advised by the director, those persons have indicated that they would have paid somewhere between $3,000 and $8,000 for this fateful voyage thus far. And so we anticipate that that information would be passed over to the police and also the Office of the Attorney General, who will then take whatever necessary course of action they deem necessary. And so we stand ready, but again, I would ask the Bahamian people to pray for those persons, pray for the family of those who have lost their lives, and also pray for our law enforcement officers who are out there on those treacherous waters trying to rescue more lives or recover bodies. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Again, I echo the sentiments of my colleague, expressing condolences to those who have lost their lives and their families. I come here today in a dual capacity as the Acting Minister of Health. I would like to say that there have been 17 deceased that are in the morgue from this tragic accident. There are 3 who are in hospital with injuries and ailments as a result of near-drowning incidents. We suspect 1 may be recovered enough to be released this afternoon. 2 are being held for monitoring. The hospital was operating and accepted those without issue or problem, going rather swiftly. We have the Managing Director of the Public Hospital Authority who will bring some remarks after I'm done, Ms. Roll, who could speak to some of those specifics. But needless to say, the medical team is on the scene and assisting law enforcement officers and those who are here in earnest. With respect to enforcement matters, as the Attorney General, certainly we will wait and see the final reports of the investigation from the law enforcement team. To the extent that those investigations reveal criminal culpability, there will be no resistance by the government of the Bahamas in bringing the necessary criminal action and criminal enforcement action against those who are deservingly so. With those remarks, I'd like to bring the Acting Managing Director of the Bahamas Public Hospital Authority up to bring some remarks on what we're seeing at the hospital. And I might add, she went from church to the hospital, and to the hospital, straight to here to the press conference. So,
thank you so much, and good afternoon, Bahamian people and the media. Just like my colleague said, we got calls early this morning in relation to this incident as well. The hospital was able to assess individuals, and they were then sent on to the detention center. But we were able to detain 3 individuals, of which 2 are females and 1 is a male. The male is doing extremely well and should be able to be discharged this afternoon. The other 2 will remain. And they've been suffering from near-drowning symptoms as well as dehydration. Unfortunately, yes, coming from church, we were able to see there were 17 persons that were pulled from the waters who are all deceased. In those numbers, there are 16 females, 15 adult females, and 1 toddler, unfortunately, around the age, appeared to be between 4 and 5, and 1 male. We did have an opportunity to isolate them in an external cooler all by themselves, as to ensure that chain of custody and ensure that we're able to work with our partners. This afternoon, I'm pleased to say that we will be working along with the police force to have a sense of the identification so that we can move forward with that processing as well as to engage loved ones. So on behalf of the Public Hospitals Authority as well, we want to extend our condolences to the families wherever they are, and want to say that we stand by to meet the demands of what's going on. And so I also wanted to thank, really was very impressive seeing the cooperation from the various funeral homes in alignment and following protocols today as we swiftly move forward, but also providing that level of dignity in the process. So thank you so much.
You would have heard from our speakers this afternoon. We open now for questions. Just let us know who you're addressing a question to, so we can have those. Yes, Desmond Saunders, ZNS.
This is a question for one of the officials from the Defense Force. There's going to be ramped up surveillance as a result of this incident. I'm getting reports that there may be some turmoil in Haiti.
We continue to maintain a presence, as you can imagine, in the southern corridor of the Bahamas. Decentralization, our efforts continue in that regard. We continue to ensure that we work with our local and international partners, and you would have recognized in a few months now, there hasn't been a successful landing, and I think that's part of the collaborative approach and the strategic positioning of our craft to dissuade them from coming toward this area. What we have seen on occasion as we work with the Port Department is aspects of human smuggling which may actually be initiated from the northern New Providence shoreline. And so we continue to work with them, we continue to monitor those suspected areas, and we continue to ensure that we're also working with the Royal Bahamas Police Force to ensure that all of us are on the same page. And we've had some successes at some key locations. And so while there may be smuggling activities, presumably most of which take place in the south, we are aware of what transpires here within New Providence and the environs as well.
Right. Just to be clear, the nationalities, I just want you, I don't think anyone addressed that of the victims. Could you speak to that? I know it suggested that they were of Haitian descent, I'm assuming, but I just want to be clear on the nationalities. Were there any Bahamians among those people there, just to be clear?
Apart from the 2 Bahamians that the commissioner spoke of that were in custody, assisting with the investigation, our information suggests that all were suspected Haitian migrants.
Question for the Commissioner of Police.
Before we go there, Justin, any other questions for Deputy Commodore? See, as they moving back and forth. That's good? Okay. All right, go ahead, Justin.
You indicated somewhere between 50 and 60 individuals were believed to be on the vessel. 17 are dead, and another 25 were apprehended. Can you maybe give the estimate for how many people are still believed to be missing at sea?
So the total between what are alive and dead, we have a total of 42 persons that we could account for at this time.
So at least 8.
So at least, exactly. Between 8 to about 15 persons may be still missing. If we are saying between 50 to 60 persons, we could account for 42.
And the rescue and recovery efforts are still ongoing?
Yes, very much alive. If you were to visit that area, you will see officers up and about, and also our U.S. partners, the Coast Guard, they're in the area as well to take a more wider approach to see if any would have drift away in that area.
Do we know what the name of the vessel is?
No, there's no name at this time.
You mentioned that one toddler was a victim of drowning. Were there any other children involved who would perhaps might have been rescued, a part of the group?
No, not according to my information. That may have been the only toddler at this time, or any other children. No, we don't have that information.
Commissioner, if you can confirm for us, sir, the nature of the marine patrol that the police force may have that covers that area, the nature of it, the frequency of it, give us an idea of how, or if police are in fact patrolling that area, if you suspect.
Yes, especially, you're quite correct, the harbor area, that is covered almost a 24-hour period. You have the defense forces as well, and if they are at base, any call, they're able to respond in a reasonable time for any assistance across the board. And we work in tandem with the defense force.
Just one follow-up question. Have there been any incidences previously where you have stopped people attempting to leave from there who may be involved in smuggling? Have there been a series of arrests or any arrests in the past?
Yes, we have stopped and searched, especially in the Hurricane Hole area, individuals who are known to us based on their background. We had stopped and searched a number of them, had them in for questioning, and we continue to do that and to be vigilant out there. The whole team, we are communicating, so we are aware of, especially the persons that are involved in these incidents. Everybody on board is aware of these individuals. So we are always on the lookout for individuals like that.
The two people who are in custody now, are these people known to police?
Yes, they are known to us for various offenses, I would say. So they are known to us, and we are looking at a view, not only the smuggling, but you are looking at manslaughter, you are looking at an unsafe vessel. So we are going deep into this with respect to charges as we move with our investigation.
And human smuggling is among the things they are known for.
I can't confirm totally, but they are known to the police.
Are you able to say the nationality of the captains of the boat?
Yeah, they're Bahamians. Yeah, they're Bahamians.
Can you confirm at this time whether they were undocumented Haitian nationals?
No, I can't confirm at this time. That is a line of inquiry that we are following right now to properly identify.
They indicate that they're in possession of identification?
Yes, but we haven't gotten them in our possession yet. We are just coordinating that with the Ministry of Health. So the investigators will get a hold of that, and then we will follow through, and we will bring you up to date as to where that leads us to identification.
An estimate, I don't know if you could provide, or maybe immigration officials, as to how many migrants have been apprehended in Bahamian waters for the year so far?
Well, they will be able to respond to that. Any other questions for me before I take my seat?
Anything else for the Commissioner?
Unfortunately, there are photos of the dead now circulating on social media. Can you speak to the training process when it comes to recovery teams, and also what advice would you have for the public who is continuing to circulate these photos?
Yes, well, you know, on a daily basis from crime scenes, we continue to highlight that and just ask the members of the public to be sensitive with respect to human beings and family members of deceased persons. I always say social media is good, but it could be the devil at the same time. And when you put out information like that, sensitive information, man, you know, they are somebody's loved ones. And it's grief. So we want to, you know, continue to send the message out to members of the public who are doing that, to please desist from doing the same.
Any reports of people coming to police stations or to the hospital inquiring about whether these people could have been their loved ones?
Well, not as yet, but we are appealing to members of the public out there and people out there who may have any information or have any loved ones who may be missing at this time, or suspect that they may be involved with this incident, to please come into the station and reach out so that it could assist with our investigation.
All right. Okay, sure. Who are you asking for? AG? That's from AG. From who you need? Who you need?
How many migrants were likely apprehended in Bahamian waters for the year?
Do we have that number yet, immigration? We don't have a figure. We We can get it to you. We can get it to you. You can reach me. I think asking for the AG, but I also wanted to give an update. Minister Bello give an update. I think we were able to make contact with the Haitian ambassador. So you can just give an update as to what was said.
Yes, in respect to the communication with the Haitian ambassador in the community, we've been in communication with the Haitian ambassador, and he should be back in Nassau next week. But we are also not necessarily just waiting on him, but we'll be communicating with other persons that are known in the Haitian community to ensure that we collaborate, to ensure that we identify who these persons are and get their loved ones in and continue on with the investigation. So that process has started already. Thank you.
AG?
Can you elaborate on the penalties as it relates to human smuggling and any plans to maybe stiffen those penalties in light of this incident?
Well, a lot of that will depend on the final reports from the law enforcement agencies, because as you would know, in such a circumstance, there may be a number of different violations that somebody could be prosecuted for, which would, of course, create a higher standard of penalties on that. To give you a firm figure, I can't at this time, but needless to say that based upon the reports from the law enforcement agencies, and I think the commissioners indicated, given the what would appear to be clear negligence by the operators of the craft, that there will be a series of potential violations and prosecution that can occur. Anything else? Jasper?
Question for the Prime Minister now.
Okay. That I am not. Prime Minister,
Prime Minister Davis, we see a lot of turmoil happening in Haiti still. Usually when we see incidents like that in Haiti, we can expect an exodus of Haitian migrants coming through our waters, and sometimes just coming to our country seeking a better way of life. Immigration is an issue that has plagued the Bahamas for some years. Can you say where addressing illegal immigration stands on your government's agenda, and how you plan to address or prevent future incidents like what happened this morning from happening?
Well, what happened this morning was not an entry to the Bahamas, but rather an exit from the Bahamas, with immigrants who were already here. How they got here, we're not quite sure, as the investigations are still continuing. And as was mentioned earlier, they're still attempting to identify those persons. Once those persons are identified, we seek who their relatives might be, if any, here, and that will then be resolved. And we'll have more to say about the nationalities, the status of those persons who were here. We can't speak specifically to their status. As for the turmoil in Haiti, CARICOM has appointed myself as Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Prime Minister of Jamaica, and I think the Prime Minister of Barbados as a committee to look into how we could resolve the issues in Haiti. We just had a resolution. The UN resolution was finally passed about a week and a half ago, so that we could continue the presence of the UN peacekeepers on the ground. The question is whether there'll be any intervention. Our position of CARICOM has always been that the solution has to be a Haitian solution rather than an imposed solution. And that continues to be our position. And we are to engage very soon in attempting to bring the factions together. At the moment, it's just gang wars. It is a failed state as we speak. And efforts to bring the warring parties, and I say the gang leaders together, are in train as I speak. Insofar as the Bahamas is concerned, and the protection of the exodus from Haiti, as you would have heard from the Deputy Commodore, for which I give them very high praise, we have been able to very effectively over the last 2-3 months to prevent any entry into the Bahamas, and that is due primarily because of the efforts of the Bahamas Defense Force in collaboration with the U.S. Coast Guard and and I could add, the Cuban Coast Guard that is in contact with our defense force. And so we've been very successful over the last 2-3 months in particular. So you would not have heard of any landings in recent months. That's because of the concerted effort, slavish effort that's been engaged by the Defense Force and their collaborators. And so we just keep our fingers crossed. The situation in Haiti is really, really serious. And we don't know what the answer will be. There are talks about imposing the will of other countries onto the people. But again, as I said, we want it to be a Haitian solution. But whether that is possible, we'll only know as we engage with the gang leaders in Haiti, which we intend to do very shortly.
Is there, can we expect the Defense Force to maybe put more vessels out at sea to prevent, future incidents like this in upcoming days?
What they're doing is working now. As I'm telling you, it's been working over the last several months.
As it relates to coming in, what we saw this morning were people trying to leave our
and then that requires a different approach. That approach is what we call our local enforcement, where we find them in the Bahamas, already here, and then what we do after we find them is to repatriate them. At the moment, repatriation could be difficult, and that's one of the reasons why we have beefed up our surveillance to prevent them from coming in. Because if the world is suggesting that we should absorb all of those who leave Haiti, that's what they would say to me. When I was at the Summit of Americas, they wanted me to sign on to an irregular migration declaration. That includes, but we have our own peculiar circumstance that I keep reminding the world of. We are unable to open our borders to irregular migration and our refugees either, because of our own limited resources and because they ask us to do things, but at the end of the day, who foots the bill? You, the taxpayers. So we have this delicate balance that we are going through. So insofar as exiting, between the police force and the immigration department, they are collaborating to ensure that we assist in preventing the exiting of this of the irregular migrants here who usually head to the north. Thank you.
Anything else?
So one question. This obviously does not go well for the Bahamas with regards to a recent report released regarding human trafficking and smuggling in the Bahamas, and now we have Bahamians allegedly smuggling Haitian nationals.
Which report are you talking about? Sorry.
It's a U.S. recent report regarding human trafficking in the Bahamas. Yeah, a place in the Bahamas at Tier 1. And it speaks to the fact that, yes, things have been done in the Bahamas with regards to addressing the smuggling problem, which still exists. And now we have Bahamians involved in this trafficking. Can you speak to that with regards to what impact you see something on the Bahamas?
Well, what was reported this morning was Bahamians being involved in smuggling, not trafficking. But they're two different concepts. So what we're talking about this morning is human smuggling, where persons are being, as it were, illegally taken into another country or illegally being brought into our country. Trafficking is something completely different. That is akin to that is what I call an anti-slavery concept, where we're holding people against their will, causing them to be engaged in conduct and work that is inimical to free will, and that's what trafficking is about. And so I'm not aware of Bahamians. They may be, but I'm not aware of any Bahamians being involved. Insofar as that report is concerned, that Bahamians or that it's laughable to me because they're speaking about the Cuban nurses that we recruited. You know, I've said to the United States, and I said on behalf of the CARICOM region, that our nurses are being lured away from us after we would have educated them and trained them. They're being lured away from us by the United States and Canada because their economies are able to pay them much more than what we could afford. So a nurse might be making $30,000 a year, and they're being offered up to $100,000 a year, $80,000 a year to go and work in the United States. And so we've seen, and in the midst of our pandemic, we're seeing an exodus of nurses to the United States. So we ask, help us, send us some nurses, at least to tide us through this pandemic. Well, they haven't. So we went where we could find nurses. And they're here working. They're working at their own free will. They were recruited properly. They're working here properly. They're being paid properly. And they could decide to go home whenever they wish. So there's no coercion in respect to these nurses. So I was really disappointed that an observation could be made or would have been made that the Cuban nurses here there's some cloud of trafficking in relation to them. I'm disappointed in that.
Final question, Richard?
Can someone speak to the process we can expect in terms of the burial of the bodies?
Well, I think the first thing we'd want to do is to be able to identify the bodies. You'd want to identify whether or not they have relatives here, so that the relatives could take charge of any burial process that they would wish. And I think that is the first thing. So in the absence of being able to locate relatives and any next of kin per se, or friends or others who then government will then have to make another decision. But we want to go through that process first before we move to make any further decisions as respect to the burial process.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. You get further updates from individual agencies as they get information. They'll send it, and we'll send it through the various channels so that you can have information. Thank you all for being a part of this update. We'll continue to keep you informed. Good afternoon.